Hello, everyone. Awesome to see everybody's faces. Welcome to this call. I see some friendly faces here, Amy, Elena. I'm going to give it about 30 seconds for everyone to join. So I figured a good icebreaker for the chat is going to be, where in the world are you right now? I am in my lovely Airbnb in Budapest. Most of my Airbnbs don't look this nice, but this is a nice lucky one. I picked it because it has really good internet. And yeah, I've been in Europe for the past couple months, and then I head to the States for a family reunion after this, and then I go back to Thailand to my apartment to spend the rest of the year. Well, what I'm going to do is just go ahead and jump right into this call. So let me do a screen share. All right. Well, welcome everyone to this call. We are doing a big celebration call to mark the end of the Create with Cat Coke challenge, which over the last 4 weeks has been celebrations. So, real quick, I wanted to kind of break down what this call is. We're going to be kind of breaking this into three separate parts. So, the first part of the call is going to be a big celebration for the mini collection challenge that I've been running in my email newsletter. So, just a quick refresher, I think every single person on this call is in my email newsletter because I only sent out invitations to my email newsletter. But a quick refresher is every week I run a creative prompt challenge called the Create with Cat Coke challenge. And it's things like draw a monstera leaf, use the certain color palette, follow a trend. And it's not just arbitrary challenges, it's all about building up artwork for your portfolio that's going to put you in a really good position to get that artwork licensed and sold. And about once a year, we do a longer Create with Cat Coke challenge. This one was 4 weeks. So rather than having individual challenges, they all tied together. So week one was create a hero design, week two, a type of pattern. I'll get into it a little bit more later. But it's been really fun to watch you guys kind of follow along. We've had hundreds of submissions, and I'm going to be going through a few of those today. And the second part of the call is going to be me walking through some of my best tips when it comes to starting your collection, especially if you're starting a collection from scratch. There is nothing more terrifying than looking at a blank screen or blank piece of paper, wondering, where do I even start? I'm going to walk you through some of the best tips. These are ones that have helped me personally when I'm in that same position, wanting to bulk up my collection deck, my portfolio, and trying to think, where do I even start with this? I'm going to break that down for you. And the final part of the call, I am going to be announcing the winner of the Art of Collections Scholarship. So for the mini collection challenge, I announced that I will be selecting one person to win a scholarship for the Art of Collections, which opens today for enrollment. So this is my signature program, and I will be announcing the winner at the very end of the call. So without further ado, let's just jump right in. You probably already know who I am, so I'm going to spend 30 seconds explaining this, but my name is Cat Cocolette, my brand is Cat Coke, and I'm an artist. So I license my designs on products all over the world. I mean, you think of a product, you name it, I probably have had my design on that at some point, and it is an incredibly fulfilling career path. So this did not happen overnight. This has been about the last 10 years of just growing my art licensing brand, my portfolio, and getting in with brands all around the world. So I feel incredibly lucky, and I'm also location independent. So the same day that I put in my 2 weeks notice at my job 10 years ago, when I decided I was going to quit and pursue being a self-employed artist, the same day I put in my 2 weeks notice, I booked a impulse 6-week solo backpacking trip through Southeast Asia. And spoiler alert, that backpacking trip never really ended. Here I am, just under 10 years later, still traveling the world full time. So it is very possible to build a career you love and do it on your own terms. That's exactly what I'm doing. All right, so let's get into this mini collection challenge. So, these were the 4 prompts that I gave over the past 4 weeks. So, the whole theme was celebrations, and I picked that theme for 2 reasons. One of those reasons I'm going to get into when we get into strategy, but the other reason was we started this challenge in June. June is my birthday month. I turned 38 a few weeks ago, and so it was really cool to see all of these collections coming through with the theme of celebration. It felt like a little mini birthday party for me every time I saw a new one getting posted. So thank you guys for participating. So the way we broke it down was week one, we did a hero design. So a hero design is also referred to as a standalone, sometimes a spot illustration, and it's usually the dominant design in your collection. They would be used for something like wall art or maybe a shower curtain or planner covers, depending what product industry you're getting into. Week 2 was complex patterns, and that is where you have your most complicated pattern of your collection. I like to repurpose elements from my hero into my complex pattern. And week 3, blender patterns. It's the simplest patterns of your collection. And then week 4 was copy. So either hand lettering or typography, whatever you picked. And so the idea was if you participated in every four challenges each week, then you have your very own mini collection that you can put in your portfolio, start pitching, start promoting, share on social media. It's just a really great way to, yeah, get mini collections up and running and out of your head and into marketing. All right, so I wanted to celebrate and show some of the submissions. So we had, oh gosh, we had several hundred people participating in this challenge, and it was really hard to narrow it down, but I can't show several hundred on this call. I'm going to try and keep this to an hour. I think I need about 10 to show all of the submissions, but I wanted to walk you through some of the notable ones that I saw. Starting with Jet's collection here. So, really fun. She started here with the hero design, Happy Birthday. H is just a number, a really big number. And then Jet repurposed the face of this cat with this little party hat into their complex pattern. So, really cool to see how they took one element of the hero, repurposed into the complex, and even kind of filled in these extra spaces with some of the elements that was around the original hero. This is a really smart way of working smarter, not harder. By repurposing elements in your collection like this on different applications, it really helps your collections feel much more cohesive and like they fit together and feel very robust. I love the blender pattern here. Same thing, Jet pulled these elements directly from the hero design and kind of reworked them into a brand new composition. So this is something I do all the time in my own collection deck. I repurpose and I try to find different ways to arrange elements together. It feels really nice, really cohesive. And I love how Jet tied it all together with grumpy but festive to kind of keep that same sarcastic, humorous tone as she included on the hero. So when it comes to things like birthday cards, infusing humor can be a really great strategy for getting those cards licensed and sold. And next up, I wanted to showcase Amy's right here. So Amy started with a really simple hero. She already included hand lettering on it, celebrate you. And then Amy did that same kind of strategy where she repurposed some of these elements, like the balloon, over here into the complex pattern. And then one strategy I really like about Amy's is several of these designs have a white background. And when you're working with the collection, sometimes there's kind of this special balance that you need to hit where it doesn't feel too matchy-matchy, but it doesn't feel too different. There's kind of a sweet zone, and I think Amy hit that really well by including this blender pattern here that is just full on with color. It allows some of these other elements to breathe a little bit more. The other thing I liked about Amy's was she kept it really simple with just a straightforward, minimalistic color palette, just two tones, plus a neutral with black and gray. So one thing I always recommend to my students, if you're ever not sure with colors, I always recommend starting with fewer and then building up from there. So simple color palettes, minimalistic color palettes, they tend to feel very sophisticated, more refined, and it was really great to see you leaning into this, Amy. So congratulations on your final collection. And we also had MTO Studio. So one thing I liked about MTO's submissions was they actually used mock-ups to showcase their final artwork. So when you present your collections, there's kind of two strategies. You can show flat artwork like this, or you can show your artwork mocked up on real products. And if you're unsure what a mock-up is, it's a digital file that resembles what that real product looked like. So this isn't a real card printed out and photographed. It's a digital mock-up with just a few clicks in Photoshop. They're really easy to use to see how your artwork translates onto real products. And strategies like this are really strong because one, when you showcase a collection like this, if MTO Studio is going to be pitching this to a client in this space, someone in the gifting space, the special occasions, stationery, by showcasing it on mockups, the art director, whoever is viewing this, isn't going to have to imagine, what does this pattern look like as envelope liner or embellishments? They're able to see it right in front of their eyes like this. So really great strategy, and really like seeing kind of how you're rolling that out with your deck. And this is a minor thing, but I really appreciated it. Seeing that you kind of keyed the envelopes of your mockup into the same colors as the color palette from your collection. Really smart, really great use of customizing mockups to support your overall vision with that collection. So really beautiful work here. And we had Diane Wootens. So Diane took this approach that I really wanted to highlight here, where she kept hers fairly generic. And so when you're working on collections, especially for something like the celebration challenge, you have two approaches. You can niche in to a very specific occasion, like maybe birthday, or you can keep it broad and all encompassing. Also referred to as generic, but generic is not a bad thing in our licensing. What it does is it opens you up for more opportunities, and it really keeps that broad appeal. So even though there's a lot of really beautiful designs happening here, the messaging is the same across everything. It just says yay. And what's great about this is, yes, this collection can absolutely work for birthday, but it could also work for any occasion worth celebrating. So this could be an anniversary, it could be a girls' trip, it could be just anything where you have celebration ideas, but you want to keep it more generic. These kinds of collections can be really powerful. And I love how Diane took the little placard right here for Yay, repurposed that into this more robust, complex pattern. And one little thing on this collection that I liked was how she actually rendered out Yay. So she has her very minimalistic, flat graphic versions, but then she rendered it out with sprinkles. Bubble form letters are really popular. They're trending in typography this year. And it was fun to kind of see this layered 3D rendering sparkle effects against a flat background. I thought it looks very restrained and really, really cool, very professional. So thank you, Diane, for sharing. And we have Julie. So Julie worked on a birthday collection. This was her hero, enjoy every morsel. One thing I really like about this is how Julie had her hand lettering interacting with the elements of her illustration. So she has the M kind of extending downwards and pulling through behind those candles, and it just helps it feel a little bit more interactive. It's not typography that's just slapped on there. It's very intentional and very delicate in the way that she even hand lettered it. It feels really nice. With hand lettering, it can really benefit your portfolio. You can infuse more personality. And the most common, I think, error that I sometimes see with hand lettering is having it not integrate with the illustration style. Same thing with typography as well if you're using fonts. But Julie, you did a fantastic job. The kind of tone of this lettering really complements your illustration style. It feels cohesive. It feels like it belongs. I really like your complex pattern, how instead of pulling elements out of the existing, you actually thought, what's missing from this piece? It's the piece of cake and then the fork that was kind of used to scoop it out. And that's what you illustrated with your complex. Really fun strategy, and I think it came together really well. With the blender pattern with these candles, my favorite part about this was just this really shock of bright neon outline on those candles, because when you see it close up, you can see what it is, birthday candles. But if you were to zoom out a little bit, then it turns into this really nice kind of hand-worked geometric pattern. So you kind of get a 2-for-1 here. And Julie went above and beyond, even illustrated a sentiment for the inside of the card. So really, really lovely to see. This is just a beautiful mini collection. So awesome work, Julie. And Sabrina. So Sabrina actually started with a type forward hero design. So I'm liking this kind of like faux risograph, faux screen print kind of look here. Really nice textures. When I was pulling this into the presentation, I actually pulled this into Photoshop so I could zoom real close and see what kind of texture she was using. Really, really beautiful. This kind of layered effect is working well. And yeah, same thing. It's really cool to see this strategy of Sabrina pulling out these elements like these sparks, the smiley face, and then incorporating them into a complex pattern, but not being afraid to add some additional elements as well, like these little flowers, these little sprinkles, to really help fill up that pattern. When you're working on scatter patterns, and this is kind of reminding me of it right here with this complex, sometimes it can be really helpful to have a variety of sizes within your elements. So she has her largest sizes here with these sparks, and then she's using medium size and then these even teeny tiny sprinkles to really fill in the gaps so that it's not feeling too sparse. Everything feels nice and snug and really well balanced. So great balancing there. And same thing with these blenders. They have a really nice balance to them. And the other thing I like is seeing how, Sabrina, you weren't afraid to try some more color fills. So you've got dominant white backgrounds on your complex and hero, but you're also trying out some much more kind of in-your-face color fills with some of these blenders. So that's a really nice balance overall. And another shout out to mockups. Looks amazing. Seeing this actual card design printed on a card with a matching envelope that matches the same color palette. One thing my students ask me a lot is, when should I use mockups and when should I not use mockups? And my simple answer here is when it makes sense, if you're going to be pitching to a specific industry with a collection. And for something like a happy birthday collection, you know that the product types here, I mean, it's not going to be wallpaper, it's not going to be a canvas on your wall or throw pillows. It's going to be things like stationery cards, gift bags, stationery products in general, party wear as well. So really thinking about that final product application can guide you into the types of mock-ups you'd like to use. So Sabrina, for something like this, by the way, this is 100% pitch ready. You can be pitching this exactly as is to companies in this space, and I think you get a good response. And Britney worked on her collection, Make a Splash, It's Your Birthday Bash. Really fun also seeing this hand lettering come through. This is another great example of having that lettering style match and align with the illustration style in a really seamless way. It feels fluid, it makes sense, and the lettering is really supporting that illustration style. And one little thing that I really liked about Britney's is she took this one element here. I think it's like a pool floaty, like a lounger in your pool, and that is directly what inspired this blender pattern right here. So if you look closely, it's not just flat out straight graphic shapes that are perfect. There's actually some imperfection and fluidity to this. Like you can see how this light pink is kind of blending in with this darker pink. Little touches like that go a long way because they infuse a lot of personality into your illustrations, which makes them stand out from the crowd and feel much more distinct. So little things like that, I love those touches. It's just, yeah, it's just those little refined touches that really can really elevate a collection. And one thing that Brittany did over here, she mocked this up to show it on products that are applicable for a collection type like this. So again, birthdays, what types of products are being made, who are you going to be pitching this to? She included party wear and cards, which I thought was really, really smart. So beautiful collection, Brittany. And Ryan posted her collection as well, starting with a really nice complex hero. I'm a big fan of cats. They're my favorite animal. So it was fun seeing this kind of cat-centric birthday collection. One thing I wanted to point out here is Ryan actually used a really smart strategy when you're designing a collection for what is otherwise a pretty saturated space. And celebrations, birthdays, there are a lot of artists, there's a lot of artwork in this space. So how do you stand out from the crowd? One way is by leaning into your unique artistic voice. And a strategy with that is blending two separate elements together to create a more unique perspective. So in this case, Ryan didn't just stick with, cakes and balloons, but she brought in something that's not typically associated with birthday, cats, but has a very strong audience appeal. There's a lot of animal lovers out there. So by adding cats, she was able to make her collection feel even more unique, even more true to her own artistic voice, and have it stand out from the crowd a little bit. So this is a strategy that I tell my students in art of collections a lot is, let's say you're working on a generic winter holiday collection. Can you throw something in there to make it stand out and feel more unique? Can you put maybe a cat in there, maybe an animal that's not typically associated with that season or that occasion to help your collection feel more distinct, more unique to you, and really, really stand out. So great job implementing that strategy, Ryan. And we have Kit's collection. So Kit took this in a, slightly more unique path, which was really cool to see. Again, Kit kept it more not focusing on a specific occasion like birthday, but just general celebration. So instead of just having it be general celebration, but that's it, she had general celebration with this kind of keyed in tone of camping. You've got s'mores, tents, campfires. And then for the typography hand lettering element, she actually used this map that she created, Adventure Ahead, which I thought was really, really cute. Yeah, and I liked for her blender pattern here. Kit actually used a lot of the same elements for what's existing in her complex pattern, but really simplified it. Not just by pulling one element out and repeating it, but also by simplifying the color palette. So when it comes to complex patterns versus blender patterns, there's no one hard and fast rule for them, but as a general rule of thumb, I usually put more of my colors in the complex pattern and then fewer colors in the blender, just to, again, give some more breathing room to the collection. So, as she's designing this together in a presentation template, she can really have the heroes stand out, the blenders will take up smaller space, and it's less overwhelming for the viewer to be able to look at this all together. You can kind of breathe on these like less complicated, less colorful designs, and then your eyes can go wild on some of the more complex ones. So really, really nice pacing here. So thank you so much for sharing, Kit. All right. So massive congratulations. Thank you so much to everyone who participated. I wish I could have highlighted all of them today, but just know that every submission was much appreciated. The last month, I've just gotten to get on Instagram, scroll through, and see all of this just beautiful artwork getting shared for this mini collection challenge. So yeah, massive thank you for everyone who participated. All right, so second half of the call, as promised, I'm going to share some tips for starting your collection. So, again, this is where you're sitting down, you know that you want to create a collection to pitch. Where do you even start? What are some strategic ways? And I will tell you from my personal experience, again, 10 years in this industry, I spent a lot of time spinning my wheels or creating collections or pieces of artwork that weren't going to get me anywhere. And so my primary goal when I sit down to create right now is I want to make money from my artwork. This is how I support myself. This is how I travel the world full time. And I'll create personal art for the sake of personal art, but when I'm creating art for my business, I want to use the most strategic tips to get that artwork licensed and sold and bulk up my licensing income. So all of the tips I'm going to be sharing today are along those same techniques. For anyone that wants to commercialize their artwork, get it in front of the right buyers, these are the tips that I have recommended. All right, starting with setting your goal. And like I mentioned, my goal is to earn an income with my art. I used to be kind of ashamed to say that. I was like, "Oh, artists should be creating art for the sake of it." But no, that's not the reality all the time. I can create personal art, but I really want to make a living with this, and this is what I do. So I create artwork that has a strong potential to sell well, and that means showcasing commercially viable artwork. So all of the tips that I'm going to be walking you through today are along these same lines. What's going to get the most traction in front of the right people? What are buyers, what are our directors actually looking for? And relevance is, I think about my audience a lot. I want to think about what my audience resonates with, and I really want to continue appealing to them because I want them to continue buying my work. So, my audience is kind of twofold. I have the manufacturers, the licensees that I pitch to and that I work with, that I sign licensing contracts with. But I also have to think about that end audience, who's going into the stores, who's actually buying these products, because I need to appeal to both of them. The art directors aren't going to be interested in my work if it's not going to appeal to their audience that they're creating these products for. And industry expectations. So with licensing, it's often a long game. I just signed a licensing deal last month for a product line that's not going to go live. It's for planners until 2027 and 2028. So this is me signing contracts, working on designs, but with this long haul in mind. So I want to be aware of trends. I want to be aware of industry expectations with this kind of idea in mind that I'm creating artwork for the long haul. And the reason I'm putting this in here is because trends are something that get talked a lot in the art licensing world. I leverage them constantly in my artwork. That's one of my biggest cues on what I want to create. But yeah, I've heard pushback from my students of how do I know what trends to resonate with, what to incorporate into my work, because a lot of people are afraid that trends are going to have such a short runway that they'll be irrelevant next season. And I will tell you, that's generally not the case for me. So, trends generally have a longer runway than you might think. All of these designs, they've been licensed for multiple years. It's this collection actually launched last year, but many of these designs were already licensed before this, and some have been licensed after this as well. So all of the artwork I put in my portfolio, it's not flash in the pan trend artwork. It's things that I hope will be licensed for the years to come, so I can continue earning an income with it. So let's get into these actual strategies. So if you are just starting your art licensing portfolio, if you already have a large, robust portfolio, this one might not apply to you as much. But if you're just getting started, this is my best recommendation I have. It is to go broad before you go niche. And what I mean by that is think about the occasions that licensees are licensing artwork. What's something that you can do that's going to have the biggest chance of mass appeal? So rather than starting your portfolio by niching into really specific holidays that maybe only a small percentage of the population celebrates, if you're on your 30th collection or 40th, by all means, go there, niche in. But if you're just getting started, my recommendation is to start very broadly. Think about the highest potential that you can earn, and then think about that demand from buyers. And so, what that means are occasions like birthdays. Birthdays are great because they're literally happening every day. They're not just happening for specific seasons or specific months. These birthdays are happening every day. It is a great kind of collection category to get into, to have in your collection deck, because there is always going to be a demand for birthday artwork. Holidays as well. What I want to put in here for a caveat for holidays is think about the holidays where, I mean, we have art licensing, we get paid royalties, so I get paid when products get sold. So for holidays, I want to think about the types of holidays where the most products are getting sold. And so those are going to be holidays that have a huge emphasis on either gifting or home decor. So probably the most prominent gifting holiday out there are going to be winter holidays, especially Christmas. Valentine's Day is another huge one in the art licensing world. So if you are going to be starting a collection deck from scratch, something like a Valentine's Day collection would be a really great choice for you because there's a massive demand there. And for a holiday like that, really any holiday or any collection topic, I guess, that you're going to be designing for, you want to think about what that end product is going to be, and some will be more obvious than others. So let's do Valentine's Day since I'm already talking about it. The number one product that gets licensed and sold on Valentine's Day are cards. So anything in the stationery space, cards, envelope liner, those are going to be your two main products to consider. So as you're designing a collection around a specific holiday, like Valentine's Day, think about what designs you can create that are going to look fabulous on cards or the envelope liner or wrapping paper, gift wrap, gift bags that go along with that holiday. Occasions, also, these are evergreen events, anniversaries, baby showers, weddings. These are things that are happening continuously throughout the year and can be a good strategy to have a full collection around some of those. And seasonal is another really, really big one. And so, what seasonal means is you think of the four seasons. So, you've got spring, summer, autumn, and winter. I have a minimum of one collection per season in my portfolio. For some, like summer, I have a lot of collections around summer. So I have collections around all of the main seasons, And because we're going to use the word generic again, even though it sounds bad, it's really not. It's a good strategy. For my seasonal collections, like my spring collection, my summer collection, fall, I keep them broad so that I can continue pitching them year after year. So I don't want to design a, let's say, fall collection that's only going to be relevant this year. I want my fall collection to be something that I can keep pitching year after year and hopefully continue getting those designs licensed or sold every year. So that's my advice for you here. If you're just starting out, think broad before you niche in. Niching in can be a good strategy, but highest potential for getting you earned income is starting broad. And think strategically about what sells. So think about who you might be pitching this collection to and what those buyers are actively looking for. I touched on trends a little bit earlier, but I really want to hammer this in. This can be really, really important for you to incorporate into your own artwork. By following trends, it doesn't make you a sellout. It doesn't strip away your artistic voice. The key here is if you find a trend that you're interested in, maybe it's a certain color trend, like the Pantone color of the year or the New York Fashion Week colors for this season. If you're going to be incorporating those types of trends into your artwork, can you do it in a way that still reflects your own unique artistic voice? So when I think of trends, like this is my trend report. I publish it every January. It's a free resource on my website. You can go check it out. I included a lot of trends that I'm seeing rising for this year. And some of them I'll incorporate into my own portfolio if they really speak to me, like Rococo Tea Party. I love it. I designed the little series of teacups. Some have little kitty cats on them. Seaside Opulence. I did a lot of watercolor. And so I really want to think about the trends that invigorates me and gets me excited to create artwork around. And that's the difference between spreading yourself too thin, following trends for the sake of trends, versus incorporating trends in a way that really makes sense for your own style, your own voice. So my pro tip here, when it comes to trend tracking, a lot of brands, mine included, put together trend reports that can be really helpful. But if you want to do any trend tracking on your own, the main thing you want to look for are patterns. So, do you see certain motifs repeating over and over again, certain patterns, certain color palettes? And rather than just looking with a broad brush, everything out there, my tip for you is to find consumer facing brands that have the same audience overlap with you. So, my example is let's do probably Anthropology or even ModCloth. These are two fashion brands. They're not art licensing brands. They're not artists. They're just consumer facing home decor and apparel brands that my audience shops at. And so why that's important for me is I'll just get on anthropology.com, I'll sort by best selling or sort by newest, and as I'm scrolling through and seeing what they're putting out for this season or this month in their collections, I'll take note. If I see a lot of the same color palette being repeated over and over again, then I'm going to take a visual cue, like maybe this is a good color palette that I can work into my own portfolio. Or if I see certain motifs like leopard print being used over and over again on products, then that's a good cue for me that maybe I need to do leopard print in my own style and add it to my portfolio. Because again, we have this audience overlap. So this can be a really, really good technique. And I will say that the artists that I know that are the most successful in art licensing and surface pattern design, they are 100% aware of trends that are happening right now. But they have very strong artistic voices. They have very strong styles. So they're not spreading themselves too thin. The trends that they incorporate really make sense for their own portfolio. So it's my little golden nugget for you guys with trends today. And another strategy is to plan with longevity in mind. And I touched on this a little bit earlier, but it's really important. It takes a lot of time to illustrate. I mean, this pumpkin confetti illustration, it looks pretty simple, but this took me like 8 hours working on it was like 3 days on and off on my iPad. It took a long time, and I don't want this to just be licensed this year and then be irrelevant for all of the following years. I want to be able to create artwork that gets licensed over and over and over again so that every new design I add to my portfolio, I'm hopefully growing my overall income because the older designs are still relevant. And so my recommendation for you is as you're working on your collections, really think about how you can infuse more staying power so it's not going to feel dated after a single season. Most trends, again, are going to have a longer runway than you probably think. But for example, I probably wouldn't include any pop culture references that are going to be irrelevant next year. I mean, two reasons for that. One, it's too too much of a flash in the pan of a trend. And then the second reason is we've got to be careful with IP violation, intellectual property violation, trademarks, copyrights, that kind of thing. I would not recommend using anything that's protected with a trademark, any sorts of song lyrics, anything in literature, unless it is actually surpassed copyright protection. So yeah, my the ones that get relicensed year after year, especially that I care about, again, are seasonal collections, spring, summer, fall, winter, holidays. All of my holiday collections that I have in my own collection deck, I want to again be able to pitch year after year every single time that holiday is happening. And then of course special occasions, birthdays, anniversaries, weddings, anything along those lines. So yeah, when you design again with this kind of longevity in mind, that's going to really help your portfolio work harder for you year after year. And this little tip is unrelated to the longevity in mind, but I wanted to point it out for this collection. These 4 pumpkins over here, I've literally just pulled them out of this hero design right here. So same pumpkins I'm using in my complex pattern, also in standalones. Standalones like this, also called spot illustrations, are something that I didn't really start using in my portfolio until, about 3 years ago because my agents actually recommended it to me. So I'm represented by a company called Jewel Branding and Licensing. They're my agents. The first half of my solopreneur career I did on my own, and then I signed on with a licensing company, and now they represent me. So it's great. It frees up more of my time where I can work on creating artwork that's going to sell well. They can work on getting that in front of the right people and negotiating those contracts, which I used to do and I do not miss. So that's a big benefit there. But any advice that they give me, I really listen to because they have my best interest in mind. When I get something licensed, we both get paid. And so one thing they recommended to me a few years ago was pull out more parts of your illustration from your heroes and showcase them like this as really simple spot illustrations. And at first it felt kind of redundant for me. Like, why would I show these on their own? They're already seen over here. But since I started using this strategy, I've gotten way more spot illustrations licensed than I ever have before. So let's think about something like, oh, maybe it's a paper plate. This design might be a little bit too complicated, but this pumpkin would fit really nicely right in the center for seasonal plateware. So that's my little unexpected pro tip for you on this slide. And start with what excites you. So this is really, really true in the art licensing space. The most compelling collections are going to come from a place of genuine inspiration. And the bonus here is this gives you an opportunity to infuse more of your own personal story, your personal preferences, experiences that you've had in life into your own collection deck, which is really strong for marketing. So this one right here, I took a trip to Tanzania a few years ago with friends. We did an amazing safari, saw a bunch of animals. I photographed everything. I got a selfie with a cheetah. I mean, I wasn't next to it. It was like outside the car window and I was inside the car, but still it counted. And then we did an 8-day hike up Mount Kilimanjaro. And so I was in Tanzania for about 3 weeks. It's one of the best trips I've ever been on in my entire life. And I wanted to create a full collection to kind of represent this just amazing experience I had seeing the flora and fauna of Tanzania, Africa. So I took a million photos while I was on this trip. And then when I got back to my apartment in Thailand, I illustrated a full collection. This is just one of 2 pages around that trip. And within a month of me adding this to my art licensing portfolio, it got picked up for a licensing deal. And so when I promote this collection, when I promote the product line that it turned into, I have amazing footage that I can share of, hey, here's the real life flamingo that inspired this design. I can infuse more of my own personal story into that as well. And one reason why that's really beneficial for you is things like this are going to help you stand out apart from the crowd. You know, there are a million versions of leopard print out there in licensing. It's one of the most popular motifs that gets licensed. I think I've got 5 or 6 different versions of leopard print in my own portfolio. That's how strong it is. But how do I have mine really set me apart? One is my artistic voice. I try to keep my illustrations very tight in, lining with my styles, but also I get me getting to share my own experiences. I can talk about the jaguar, or I'm sorry, the leopard that I saw in a tree when I was in Tanzania, and how like that experience could influence something like this. So, my pro tip here is to really think like a buyer, think like your customer. If you were curating your own product line, what would you pick? And that'll really help you as you're designing your own collections to really kind of put that mindset of thinking like an art director, putting yourself in their experiences. And another tip is having an end product in mind. So, this is another strategy that my agents recommended to me about 3 or 4 years ago. And it's an amazing strategy. And what they suggested was I have my full collection deck, which is a bunch of flat JPEGs, flat art. And they asked if I could put together a deck specifically showing product mockups like this for what was at the time a big gap in my portfolio. I would get like one-off licensing deals, like maybe like 2 or 3 a year to do individual kitchenware products, like maybe coasters or a tumbler or something like that. But I didn't have a full product line yet. And so I was on one of my quarterly calls with my agents, and we were trying to strategize for what types of artwork should I be creating for my portfolio. Want to make that money? Like what's going to give me the best potential? And they recommended, you know what, Kat, you don't have a ton in the tabletop and kitchen space, so how about you focus on that? And so what I did is I put together a full collection deck using mock-up files that I found online. I buy these on Creative Market, and Createsy is my favorite brand to go with. And I basically took what my Blooms and Shrooms collection was, which was flat artwork, and then I reworked that artwork into product mock-ups like this. And one really cool thing that happened when I did this is that same kind of strategy I was talking about with spot illustrations. These 3 mushrooms right here, and actually these guys down here as well, these were all part of a larger pattern. So I never showcased them as individual mushrooms. I just kept them kind of tightened in with a larger pattern. And so as I was putting together these mock-ups, I was thinking, okay, what am I going to put on the plates? What am I going to put on the mugs, the napkins? And that's when I had this idea of, okay, let me pull out some parts from my existing more complex pattern, use it here. And this is what it looked like when it actually got licensed and turned into real products. So it's really cool to see kind of what I pitched and then what the final turned into. It wasn't I mean, getting to open these in real life and getting to like hold these products is a really, really special feeling. But I'd already approved the digital proofs before these actually went to print. So it wasn't a total surprise. I knew what they were going to look like. This is another unexpected piece of advice that I'm going to give you for this slide. If you're working with someone and they want to license your artwork, always, always, always tell them that you need to approve final proofs before anything gets printed. 99% of the time, that means they send me like a screenshot or a PDF showing what my artwork is going to look like on the product, and then I approve it before it gets printed. This is really important because I can't tell you the amount of times I've caught my signature getting cropped off, which I do not want. I want my signature there. It's not on the artwork itself, then on the packaging or the hang tag, or important elements of my illustration getting cropped off in a weird way. So always ask to see digital proofs. And this is a benefit for them as well, because that shows that you're invested. You want these products to look great. So yeah, that would be a good tip here is think about that final product category, and that can really help you as you're designing your collections. You can also retrofit them. So this is part of my broader Blooms and Shrooms collection, which has been licensed on tons of product categories. It's not exclusive to tabletop and kitchen, but I showcased it here because I really wanted a tabletop and kitchen licensing deal, and this is what did the trick for me. All right. Next tip is artistic voice. So, I've been talking about your style, your artistic voice a lot, and this is one of the most important things that will have you stand out in licensing. And before I get into this, I want to put a big caveat in here. You don't need to just have one style or one artistic voice. You can have multiple styles. The most important thing is that you have a large enough body of artwork to back up each style. So this style here, this is my Procreate style. It's where I draw digitally with the stylus on my iPad. I get really detailed. I get very precise. It's completely different from my watercolors, which are much more fluid. There's much more color coming in, and that's totally fine. The important thing is I have a ton of artwork that aligns with this style. I have a ton of watercolor artwork. So I can have multiple styles, but again, I have enough artwork to back up each style where it's not just feeling out of place in my overall portfolio. So getting back to artistic voice, again, this is your big superpower. This is how you make a collection feel uniquely yours. So this really, really comes into importance when you're working with trends because, again, trends inherently, a lot of other designers, a lot of other artists are going to be leveraging the same trends. So how do you do it in a way that feels true to your own portfolio and makes you stand out? And that's having your own distinct artistic voice. Another thing I want to mention here with voice is because this is another one that's a big pain point with students. They always want to know, how do I come up with my voice? How do I stay consistent with it? And how you come up with your voice is a lot of exploration. So when I was first getting started, I was just throwing everything on the wall and seeing what sticks. I wanted to see what sold well and what I actually liked doing. So I actually started with a lot of different styles, and then I zeroed in to the few that I really resonate with. So that would be my recommendation there. And in terms of keeping your style consistent in your portfolio, just know that it's going to be evolving over time, and that's awesome. That's what's supposed to happen. That's your progress as an artist. So, yeah, just being more intentional about what your style is or styles, and then, yeah, thinking of ways that you can incorporate trends, incorporate artwork into a way that really backs up your style can be a really strong starting point. And I mentioned this earlier, but this is a big tip that I give to my students. Mash up ideas together. Dogs in Halloween costumes could be a great Halloween collection that sets you apart from all the other jack-o'-lanterns and falling leaves. Maybe Celestial Valentine's Day. That's going to set you apart from all the hearts and roses. So thinking about ways that you can incorporate kind of mashed ideas together, unexpected motifs do really well, and this can also support your artistic voice. All right. I am all about maximizing my collections. Again, my biggest priority is what can I get licensed and sold? This is how I make a living. And so, one strategy that I use pretty frequently is when I'm either designing a collection from scratch or sitting down, analyzing my portfolio and figuring out how I can bulk it up a little bit. One big strategy is repurposing collections. So, this example here is what I started with. It's Pastel Petal Party. It was just a generic spring collection that I had in my portfolio for really any product type, really focusing on stationery and home decor that gets licensed around the springtime. But what I realized was I did not have any Easter collections in my portfolio. To be honest, it's not really my favorite holiday, but I did want, like, I mean, Halloween collections, I've got a lot, but Easter, I had very few. And so I wasn't really feeling inspired to create a giant, robust Easter collection. So what I did is I actually repurposed a lot of the designs from my spring collection. Spring, Easter goes hand in hand. I added some bunny illustrations, some bows, and just like that, I was able to turn one spring collection into an Easter collection. So this can be a really great strategy, again, for just bulking up your portfolio. If you're starting from scratch and you want to get more collections, doing this repurposing works really well. It's going to work the best, probably, if you're going to be translating a seasonal collection into a holiday that happens on that season, or vice versa, like I did with this Easter and spring collection. So that would be, yeah, just a great way to really, yeah, bulk up your portfolio, get more collections in there that are still going to be relevant and very interesting and appealing for buyers. And these tips. So I think everyone can probably resonate with this. Short on time. So I never have enough hours in the day. I don't think many of us do. And so, how do you continue creating collections when you don't have too much time? Mini collections are really, really strong. So, this is what the Create with Cap Coke challenge has been for the last 4 weeks. A mini collection, just 4 designs. 2 designs can be a mini collection. That is completely valid. I mean, I could show, this daisy pattern alongside these retro roller skates. Just those 2 work great as a mini collection. This could be printed as a card. This could be the envelope liner. Bam, done. And so that's something that it's a strategy that I've started using more and more. I used to design very robust collections, hero designs, secondary patterns, blender prints, spot illustrations, typography, and I used to think that every collection needed every single one of these elements, but that's not actually the case. You could have a collection that's just seamless patterns, which makes sense if you're going to be pitching it to, oh, let's say wallpaper or fabric, where those are the types of designs they're interested in. And so, one strategy that I've been using, especially lately, is when I'm sitting down to create a collection, I'm not planning out a giant, robust collection. I'm just going to plan a mini collection. And if it grows, awesome. And if it doesn't, that's fine too, because I set myself up for a mini collection in the first place. One little unexpected tip here is these supplementary designs that I have that go along with these larger heroes. These are actually elements that can be pulled right from the heroes themselves. So the little X's, which I had in the boots, and the little daisies that were in the retro or in the platforms. I actually redrew the daisies because I thought these were like a little too clunky after I finished it. And I was like, I want more definition between them. But it was such a simple shape that it took, 2 seconds to redraw in Procreate. And another tip, if you're short on time, is repurposing your existing artwork and seeing if you can use that as a starting point for a brand new collection. And so my example here is I created this really complicated illustration in Procreate, and it was my Tropical Birds Tree of Life collection. And so after I finished this, I was like, you know what? I've got some really fun little birds in here. I'm going to pull some out. I designed everything on individual canvases, so everything is very high resolution. And I actually turned some of these birds into their own hero design. And I'm really glad I did that because I actually like how these turned out more than I do the original illustration that it came from. This toucan was actually in a coloring book that launched with Crayola last year, which was really fun. But then what I did is I took other elements like the magnolia branches here and I reworked them into a pattern. And then I created a really, really simple kind of hand dotted blender print. And I wanted to have a few more complex patterns, but I didn't want to design from scratch. So I actually went into my portfolio, found some existing patterns that kind of matched the same vibe, and then I recolored them to match the color palette of this existing piece. And so just like that, I've got a nice large collection that all just came from one original piece plus repurposed artwork. So it is completely fine to repurpose artwork between collections, by the way. That's another question I get from students. So like this palm pattern here, I think I've got that in like 3 or 4, maybe even 5 of my collections. It's a popular design in my portfolio. It gets licensed quite often, so I want to give it a lot of representation. And storytelling. So this is, all coming back to this idea of creating something really memorable. Storytelling can absolutely get you there. And right now, we're in a world where AI art is an inevitability. It's happening. So how do we set ourselves apart from it? We need to think about ourselves as real human artists. Our artwork has soul. So this is my niece Aurora. I love her so much. And before she was born, I was designing the baby shower invites for my sister-in-law. And so after I did these invites, I'm a commercial artist. I'm like, what else can I do with this? That's a fun illustration, fun colors. So I drew a little sunshine face in there and I added it to my licensing portfolio. This was in 2020. And for the following 3 years, so for 3 years running, this retro sunshine design was the best design, the top selling design in my own portfolio. It was printed on, I mean, countless products. It earned me a bulk of my licensing income for 3 years. And it's all because I repurposed something that was not even supposed to be licensed in the first place. It was just a baby shower invite. And so thank you, Aurora. I will get you lots of gifts from Europe over the summer to thank you for being the inspiration for this. But the important thing here is I used a lot of storytelling when I promoted this piece. So every time, I mean, especially at the beginning that I showed off this design, marketing in my email newsletter, Instagram, anything, I told the story of how this design started as a baby shower invite, and now here's the little niece that was, the muse for the original design. And it's not like some epic story of me being in on a volcano or having some amazing experience across the world. This was just something simple that happened at home, and my inspiration was a family member. So really think about ways that you can infuse your own story. It can be an epic story, or it can be something really, really simple like this. And that's how you really set yourself apart, make yourself memorable, show that your artwork has soul. And that is really compelling. And it's engaging, it's relatable, it is marketable. It really, really helps me out. All right. So before we get into the winner of the scholarship, I want to give a big thank you for everyone who submitted. So I ran scholarship applications about a month ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. I had over 500 applicants. I chose. I was only gonna choose five, and then I could narrow it down, so I chose six. And then I saved the final scholarship winner for a winner that I chose from who participated in this challenge. So these are the six winners that I announced last week. Big congrats to them. I just gave them access to the Art of Collections this morning, actually, because it just opened for enrollment today. And the mini collection challenge winner is, drumroll, it is Hillary Holtz. So massive congratulations to Hillary. Hillary, you've been participating in a lot of these Create Good with Cat Coke challenges. It is always really cool to see how you interpret them in your own way with your own style and voice. So I'm going to be sending you a DM. Please don't ignore it after this call, inviting you to my program, The Art of Collections. You have won a free ride. So massive congratulations here. One thing I really like about our complex patterns are just like the energy that's kind of coming out with these clinking champagne glasses. Feels definitely worthy of, winning the scholarship. So massive congrats to Hillary. All right, which brings me to, all right, cool. I have 4 minutes left. I was like, I don't want this whole call to be a pitch. I want to tell you about my program, but I'm going to save it for the last couple minutes. So today is the day that I've opened up the doors for the Art of Collections, which is my big signature program. So this is where a lot of my energy, a lot of my drive goes. It's really two things. It's the course videos, which are super in depth. It's 7.5 hours of course content broken down into 4 modules. We really just scratched the surface today. If you like my presentation style, if you liked what I talked about, I think you'd really enjoy the class videos as well. So when you sign up for the Art of Collections, you get lifetime access to the videos. You can watch them all at your own pace. You can watch them today. You can watch them a year from now. You can watch them 10 years from now. You have lifetime access. And then the second part of the program is actually my high-level community, the Cat Coke Collective. So when you sign up for the Art of Collections, lifetime access to the course videos, and 6 months access to this private community. And this community is where we have monthly calls, where we really go deep. I present what's going on in my professional life. I highlight members who have secured licensing deals that month. I also bring in industry experts. So other successful artists in the art licensing space. So you're not just learning from me, you're learning from others who are seeing a lot of success as well. I bring in other industry professionals, even members from my own team. Elena, I think you're on this call. I really appreciate you. And I really, really appreciate how you teach hardcore pitching strategies to my students. That was an amazing live. And actually, my own agent at Jewel Branding and Licensing is the guest speaker for next month's call. So I can see in the chat, I've got some Cat Coke Collective members here. You guys are probably freaking out about this one. I've been saving it, so spoiler alert, get your questions ready for Carol. Anything you've ever wanted to ask an agent, she's coming on for the next month's call. So years ago, I realized how incredibly important it is to surround myself with the right people. Community can be absolutely everything for creatives. So it has been absolutely amazing to see these artists in my program. They've been growing, they've been getting licensing deals, and they really continuously help each other out. We are a pretty tight-knit crew with a good spirit of reciprocity, and this is really where the magic happens. So If you've ever felt, at a point in your career where you feel stuck, maybe you want more community, this is the really final push to get yourself out there, get in front of the right eyes. This is your chance for Art of Collections. We're ready for you inside. So I do invite you to join me and other creatives from all around the world. We have a lot of global representation. These are artists who are taking the steps and doing the work to make their dreams a reality. So this is your chance. Doors open today. They actually opened like an hour before this call started, and they close a week from today. And so once I close the doors, they're not going to open up again until 2026 at the earliest. So if you're ready to make the leap, you're more than welcome to join us. I would love to meet you inside. All right. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope you left with some really good nuggets of inspiration. And I was really just trying to think of all of the advice I could pour out in an hour-long call that's really going to help you get to those next steps of your journey. So take care, and I will see you the next time I run a celebration call like this, or I might see you inside the Art of Collections if you decide to join. If you're already inside, you know what's up. I'll see you in there. All right. Thank you so much, and take care, and I will see you next time. Adios.